Major League Baseball plans to suspend spring training as expected to be suspended today, and the start of the season likely to be delayed. Scott Lauber covers the Phillies, the Inquirer. He joins us now with some more information, I guess. Scott, have you been hearing, whether or not they're going to – are they playing right now?
Yeah, so I'll set the scene for you, guys. I'm in Clearwater. The Phillies worked out here today, this morning. My colleague Matt Breen is in Port Charlotte, where they are playing a game right now against the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm hearing a lot of what you're hearing in terms of MLB planning on announcing any minute now, I think, that they're going to at least suspend spring training, possibly delay the start of the regular season. I believe at the moment, as we speak, there's a conference call with the commissioner's office and the 30 major league owners. John Middleton is here at the Phillies facility in Clearwater today. I saw him just a little bit ago, and he would be on that call. I think Andy McPhail would also be on that call. So, to my knowledge, that's going on right now. And once they complete that call, MLB will have an announcement about what we believe will be both the suspension of spring training and the delay of the start of their season.
So what does this mean for the teams now? Are they going to be kind of quarantined in their spring training homes? Are they going to be sent back home? What do we know about the essential personnel and the player in the Cactus League out in Arizona get suspended?
Yeah, a lot of questions, logistical questions, and obviously health questions would need to be answered. My thing is that the most likely, maybe, scenario at this point would be that teams would stay where they are in Florida and Arizona, kind of hunker down, so to speak, in the spring training towns that they've been in since the start of camp in mid-February, early mid-February, that they would remain here. I don't know what that would mean in terms of daily workouts. They obviously wouldn't be playing games. I think they would probably scale back the workouts some, because I do believe that there are some health concerns related to that. Even if you have, it's not basketball or hockey where player-to-player contact is quite so common in baseball, but even if you were just going through practices, everyone's touching the same baseball. If a pitcher throws a bullpen, it's the pitcher, it's the catcher. There are a number of things that would need to be considered. I don't know exactly what they would do, but I think right now the most likely scenario is that teams would stay where they are, and at least for the time being. Now, depending on how long it goes, there would be logistical issues there too. Somebody said to me this morning that anyone who's here, whether it's a player or a support personnel, they're living somewhere, right? So they're leasing housing. Those leases probably expire at the end of the month, and maybe new tenants are coming in. So many things that you don't even think about that could be in play here, depending on how long the shutdown lasts.
Right, yeah. You just mentioned the shutdown, if it goes past spring training, logistical problems. And then you also have, I guess, the start of the season is barreling down on them. Now, the Mariners had already decided, hey, we're not going to play, but is there the potential season? Do they try to – it's hard to push the baseball season back because you're already going into November. So would all signs kind of push to a shortened type of schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I'm speculating here purely on my own because I don't think anyone has the answers to these questions. But my speculation on this would be that MLB would shorten the season. They've done it before when they've had labor interrupt and play the full 162-game schedule. For me, at least, when I look at the situation, I believe that time is still on baseball's side in the sense that they haven't begun their regular season yet. So where the NBA and the NHL have to decide, if and when they can come back, are they going to resume the regular season? Do they go straight to the postseason? What do they do here? I mean, they're deep into their seasons. Baseball hasn't started, so they've got sort of a clean slate. MLB could say, all right, we're only going to play 100 times this year. Once they resume, I think there's got to be some sort of ramping back up again. So I don't think you'll see anything close to, a full spring training, but I think you will see teams take I don't know, depending on how long it is, or 2 weeks to kind of get ramped back up again and then get into this. So baseball has somewhat of a luxury of having the time on their side, but with every day that goes by and the season gets a little bit closer, decisions are going to have to be made, and logistical, the schedule would have to be redrawn if you're going to eliminate games. So lots of things on that front, too, that would have to be determined.
Scott, what would change if and when a player in baseball would come down with the coronavirus? Because that's something that Mike and I have talked about, not just today, but all week, saying it's going to take something drastic for a drastic decision to be made. Rudy Gobert comes down with it. It's announced, and then the NBA reacts how they did. How does that impact baseball if something similar takes place?
Yeah, I was having this conversation with a colleague the other day. Like how soon does it infiltrate the sports world? And we saw it happen yesterday with Rudy Gobert. It has impacted baseball. This morning, the news that Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz tested positive for coronavirus. His father, Donovan Mitchell Sr., works for the New York Mets. From what I read, I believe in the New York Post this morning, Donovan Mitchell was at a Jazz game in New York at Madison Square Garden on March 4th. He was back at work in Florida in Mets camp on March 5th. He's in the front office there. So it has impacted baseball already, not a player on the field, but somebody in a front office. The Mets, I think, are expected to make a comment about that later today, but it was only a matter of time, and I think it's here. I think this is part of the calculus now for baseball, is determining what do you do with the teams if they're not going to play. Is the best thing for them to kind of bunker down where they are and maybe isolate them as much as possible, or do you send players home? I mean, do you risk having players moving about the country and having to travel? So it's all part of the like I said, it's all part of the calculus here, but I think with this Donovan Mitchell case, it actually has now infiltrated at least New York Mets camp.
Scott, I'm not expecting for an exact number here with this question from you, but what do you believe the financial impact could be on the sport of baseball? I mean, and at what point would you say, man, this is not good just for not this year, but moving forward?
I wouldn't even know where to start with that. Honestly, I mean, you're talking about lost revenues with at the gate, lost revenues in terms of concessions. If you're going to have fewer games, it's going to mean fewer games on television. So television revenues are going to suffer. So I have no idea. I mean, I wish I did. It's the numbers are so large that you have trouble wrapping your head around it. So I wouldn't even know whether that it begins with a B, I'm sure, in the billions, but I don't know where it goes.
Scott Lauber from the Inquirer is with us. Scott, let me ask you, I mean, you've been in Florida, so it's probably a different kind of feel and reaction from what we have here in Jersey and in the Delaware Valley. What is kind of the scuttlebutt of conversation the last week there? People worried about it, kind of like, not a big deal. It seems that baseball is a little bit behind what's going on with some of the other leagues, but that's because they're kind of in their season. But what is what was the feel of this the last week or so in Clearwater?
Probably a little different from the way I describe it to people who ask, how are things going down there? In normal circumstances, in normal times, I talk about like the kind of bubble that you live in when you live and work around a major league team during spring training. The hours at the ballpark are long. You come here, you're here early in the morning, you're here until well after the game is over. Then you go home, unless your family is with you. You go home by yourself. Or maybe you go out to dinner with friends and then you go home or colleagues and go home by yourself. It's a little bit and then you do it all over again. It's a little bit of a bubble that you're in. And I think for the first part of last week, now I got back down here on Saturday. I'd been home for a week. And when I got back down, we were just starting to talk about, clubhouse restrictions and, that policy, I believe, went into effect on Tuesday of clubhouses being restricted to non-essential personnel, which meant no reporters, which meant having to stand 6 feet away from a player when you interviewed them. We've done that a few times. I've done that myself a bunch of times. And, the first few days, it seemed like it was a little bit of a kind of an inside joke. You'd request a player, the player would come out to talk to you. He'd walk up to you like normal, a normal interaction, and you'd say, you got to stand back 6 feet. Remember the rule. And I've had players joke like, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's because everyone has coronavirus." And it's kind of like you live in this bubble and you live in this little insular world, and you think, okay, whatever they're talking about outside, and then maybe you go home at night and put on the TV and you watch the news and you realize, that it's spreading. But I think just in the last couple of days, everyone's gotten a little bit more serious about it. It seems like the news is moving very, very quickly. Andy McPhail said the other day that, the situation changes hourly, and he wasn't kidding. I think he looked at last night between 9 and 10 o'clock, and, all of a sudden the NBA had suspended its season. Tom Hanks has the coronavirus. I mean, news was moving almost too quickly to keep up with. So I think, it's reached a stage now where even in the insular world of spring training, it's the number one topic of conversation. You find yourself talking to, like this morning, I was talking to Nick Pivetta and Vince Velasquez about the fifth starter competition. And, you're sort of like, what are we doing? I mean, this is kind of trivial compared to what's going on. I asked Aaron Nola this morning if he'd be, still be ready for the start of the season after he missed the start because of the stomach flu or stomach virus. And, now obviously we know that, of course he'll be ready for the start of the season because it's not going to start on time. Yeah. So everything's changing and it's pretty quick. And it's certainly invaded everyone's world, including the world of the normally insular world of spring training.
Well, and it's a lot. I mean, Scott, the NCAA tournament is supposed to be going on there in Tampa, right up the road. I mean, and by the way, I don't know. I mean, I'm supposed to fly on Tuesday to go there. If you're down there, are you recommending to people from up here, hey, if you have plans to come here, don't do it? I mean, or is it like, hey, it's just such a weird dynamic here.
I don't want to sound alarms, and I'm certainly in no position to say what anyone should or shouldn't do. If it were me, I mean, look, you're not going to. If you were coming here to watch games, that's obviously not going to happen. Mm-hmm. I'm myself am wondering if there are going to be no games, and we'll find out, I think, in the next, hopefully, few hours where teams are going to be and what they're going to be doing during this shutdown. If teams are going to be either not practicing or practicing very informally or players coming in on their own, you wonder about media access. My family's at home. I'm wondering, can I go home for a little while? Because, the worst thing in the world is to be away from your family during a situation like that. So, you have schools are closing and, you're wondering about whether your home life is going to change. So, I mean, if it were me myself, I would probably rethink the trip. If for no other reason, then, you can go to the beach, but you can't really come watch any baseball because there's not going to be anything happening.
Well, I guess I will ask why you have been down there. You have time to go to the bait house. Have you hit that yet?
I haven't actually. It is on my list of things to do, but just haven't had a chance to get there yet because of everything that's going on.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I mean, I may or may not get a chance to run into you, Scott. I'll be down there on Tuesday, and if you're still there,
if you do, let me know. I'll make sure to stop by.
Yeah, man, and I appreciate it. Great stuff. At Scott Lauber on Twitter for more information on the Phillies and the Grapefruit League, which is suspending play. And we'll see when the Phillies season. By the way, Jake Arrieta was removed from the game just moments ago as the trainers had to come out and talk to him. So I'll let you go and try to get more information on that, pal.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Scott Lauber, everybody. Excellent stuff.